Hi, I'm Terry Brock with terrybrock.com. I want to share something with you that's happened to me just recently in this interview you're about to see. Very important to me and very special when I got a chance to share my ideas about being an entrepreneur, living life, and sharing some things that you might not have heard me say before that are very deep and personal to me. And I was able to do it because I had an interview with my friend and consummate professional, Mace Horoff. Mace is a person who is a professional speaker. He's an author. He is a pilot, flies his own plane around a lot. He has a background in really consummate professional in medical sales, knowing how to communicate with people. And you just see this in who he is. His professionalism and his kind attitude and demeanor comes across very well. You'll see it and you'll fall in love with him also, as so many people have. But in this interview, I got a chance to talk about a lot of things that I really normally do not talk about, and you're going to be able to benefit from that. About philosophy, how do we live life, and it's centered around being an entrepreneur. Running your life, taking control of your own life, not depending on someone else. The title of Mace's podcast is I'm Giving Notice, and it's about people that will leave a corporate life and embrace an entrepreneurial life, which is many people, particularly in today's world and today's economy. So this is one you want to sit down, take some time, get your old pad of paper and pen out there, or maybe your device of choice, an iPad or a computer or whatever you want to use, and take some notes on this. You're going to love it, and I look forward to hearing from you. You've got my website, terrybrock.com, and if you want to stop by and leave me a note, I'd love to hear from you. So let's get into the interview with Mace Horoff on the podcast, I'm Giving Notice.
Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to the I'm Giving Notice podcast. This is Mace Horoff. You may notice that we're doing something a little bit different today. Not only are we doing an audio podcast, but we're also doing a video podcast. Now, that in itself, for me, is very, very cool. But what makes it even more cool is the person I'm interviewing. Today, my guest on the I'm Giving Notice podcast is the great Terry Brock. Now, I can't say Terry's name without saying the great Terry Brock because he's done so many things in the speaking world, in the technology world, and for me and my speaking colleagues. So I'm super grateful to have Terry here today. What you may not know about Terry is that he's a certified speaking professional. He has his CPAE, which means he's in the Speaker Hall of Fame. And those things don't give them out to just anyone. They have to be earned. And you're going to get a lot of value out of hearing from Terry Brock today as he talks about using technology to improve your relationships, your career, and your health. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Terry Brock. Terry, you there?
Yes, indeed. Mace, it's great to see you and good to be with you here as we try this video and audio. So you're not seeing the video, just technically speaking, because we're doing the recording here, but I'm there and you're there, and I think it's working fine and wonderful to be with you today.
Thanks so much, Terry. I want to start. A lot of people who listen to the I'm Giving Notice podcast, they come here to improve their relationships. They want to improve their health, but a major thing is careers. There's a lot of people in the corporate world. They have jobs that it's not their cup of tea. Let's go back to where you began. How did you get into doing what you're doing now in the speaking world?
For me, it was one thing building on top of the other. I started in newspapers, writing those long ago, and then got into radio when I was a kid in high school. Enjoyed that, did radio and newspaper as I went through high school and undergraduate school. Between undergrad school and grad school, I worked for a very short time, about 1 year, in a radio station. Got a chance to learn something about corporate there and realized, even in a radio station, we need to know about a thing called a profit and loss. And debits and credits, those are important. So I went back to business school where they learned me up real good on that, as we say. Bad English, but you get the idea. And what they did is I learned about the business, applied it together, and now I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. And I think that's the real key to be successful, is to be an entrepreneur. Even if you're in a corporation, make sure that you're thinking like an entrepreneur.
How can people who are employees, the concept of entrepreneurship is usually something that somebody else does. How can someone who works for somebody else, how can they adopt an entrepreneur mentality?
I think you have to have that mentality to get ahead in anything in life. If you're with a corporation, I'm not talking about just with business, with your life. Take control and ownership of your life. Take ownership of your health. Yes, you work with medical professionals. Of course, they are there. You see them regularly. But you also say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility on what I'm eating, on the exercise that I do.
Sure.
Get the right program, get the right tools from a professional that can help you on that. But you've got to do it. You can't say, well, I'm just going to eat all this junk that I know is bad for me. I'm not going to exercise. And then when I have a problem, I'm going to the doctor and I want to get a pill. That's not the way to do it. You got to take control. And the same thing in life. If you're in a corporation, look at your job as your entrepreneurial venture. And really, it is. Because today, no one has a security that we think is there with a corporation. Get the job, you have a secure job. No. We've seen that over and over, that the people are thrown out all the time. And corporations are under a lot of pressure. So if you think of your job as something that you've got to own, you're going to take responsibility for it, you're going to move ahead, then you're really thinking like an entrepreneur, and that is what you do to get successful. Matter of fact, every CEO of any large corporation that's there, those that I've seen and known personally, they take control of their career. They make sure that they treat that business like it's theirs. Even if they're only there for a few short years, they make sure that they give it everything they've got and continually develop themselves.
So it's really about adopting a mindset that even if it's just a job, you're saying, this is my business. I might have control over maybe just this much of this department, but this is my business, so I'm going to run it like a business. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. For instance, let me give you an example. Suppose we have a hypothetical teenager, 16 years old, getting their first job at McDonald's. They're getting the job there. People might say, oh, that's not a good job. No. Take responsibility. Look at it as an opportunity. Make sure that you do your job, whether it's cleaning the floors or making the fries or flipping burgers, whatever you do, and be the best at it. Always be the best. My father told me that growing up. He said, whatever you do, work to be the best. And I think if you have that mentality, you're going to do well. Then you'll get the promotions there as a 16-year-old at McDonald's, and that'll open up other jobs for you because you'll get other skills. And people say, wow, we're paying everybody else minimum wage, but you're better than that. We're going to pay you this much more. And then you move to that and you do really well in that job, and then you keep moving up. That's how we get ahead. We keep doing better and always think, I've got to do this job the very best. It's mine. I'm responsible for this, and I'm going to make sure that it's done in top quality.
So Terry, let me ask you, did you ever work at McDonald's? I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school. I had a job flipping burgers, making French fries, milkshakes. Did you ever work at McDonald's?
I didn't work at McDonald's. I did a lot of jobs, from literally cleaning toilets and some miserable things. We worked in a lot of factories. I grew up in the Midwest in Michigan, and there were a lot of factories there. So I worked my way through undergraduate school, doing that in different places. Actually, sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs or 4 while going to school. And so I had to pay for myself. I had no one taking care of me. My parents were able to give me just one check at one time for $2,000, which didn't go a long way for paying for all of the undergrad. But I did it. I just got out and I hustled. I worked while I was going to school, and during the summers I'd work. They put me on a piece rate job at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company in Michigan when they were in Michigan. And that was great because then I got paid based on how many tires I built. And so you had to do them a certain way. They had to meet certain quality. And I would work through breaks. The other guys didn't like that because, I'd say, I don't care. I'm going to work hard here. I'm going to take a shorter lunch because I'll make more money and then throw it in the bank. And when school comes in the fall, I'll be able to get ahead. And so they had nasty names for me on the union there called rate busters and things like that, and a few other more colorful terms that we won't use right now. But they found that by hustling, you can really get ahead. And not everybody is going to like it when you hustle, because then sometimes it makes them look bad.
But it wasn't just hustling. You were making tires, something that people's lives were depending on. So It was good to move fast, but you also had to pay attention to the quality of your work.
Yes, exactly. And they were measured, because if it didn't work, and there were times when they didn't, the supervisors and those farther down the row would say, hey, this one, you don't get credit for that one because it didn't turn out well. You did it too fast, and you didn't meet these specifications, whatever they had. And so I found that as I went through life and did many different jobs, working in radio, working in newspaper, when I was a junior in high school, I worked 4 jobs. I taught 2 judo classes, 2 separate locations. I worked in a radio station and in a newspaper. And the newspaper I was working on liked what I did. I did an interview with a state senator. They liked it, and they sent me to Washington, and I covered Richard Nixon's inauguration. So it was kind of cool. I was 16 at the time, and just before I turned 17, and it was fun to do that. But I learned so much as a little kid, growing up in a tiny little country town in Michigan, just a dirt road there. Still today is a dirt road, that same place. And I learned that I've got to do it on my own. No one was there to help me. Everything I had to learn. I made a lot of mistakes. Still making mistakes today, but by making
You make
those
mistakes?
you learn.
You make mistakes?
Oh yeah, lots of them. Well,
There
actually,
goes my image.
not anymore. I did make a couple back in '82, was it, or '83? But no, lots of them every day.
I'm fascinated that you taught judo. I studied judo for about 2.5 years back when I was in college. I was getting so many injuries that I was missing classes, and that's when I dropped out of it. But I eat and slept judo for many years. The martial arts gives you a lot of discipline that you can apply towards life. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, it's true. It's the discipline of you keep going and you do the right thing. You behave with honor, integrity, character. One of the things I enjoyed about every match that we did is we would always bow to the person. Yes. Make sure we did that politely, and often we would shake their hand as well. So we would bow, and when we're finished, we'd bow and shake their hand. And I like that. And also you'd keep going. If you're hurt, you learn to detect, is it just hurt or is it an injury? If you're injured, you stop. Okay, you get it treated. You know, something's harmful, you're bleeding or real bad. Or if it's just you're hurt and maybe you're bleeding a little bit, we'd often call it the red badge of courage. When we'd have a little bit of blood, we'd wipe it on our judo gi. That's what they call it, the uniform. We had the judo gi. We'd wipe it on there, and we call it the red badge of courage. And then we just turn around and go, Yoshi, begin again. Yoshi, and we'd charge out into it and go after it again. It was a lot of fun and a lot of rules of life in there. That you are going to fall down, you are going to get hurt, and sometimes you're going to bleed a little bit. Know the difference between an injury and just being hurt. If you're just hurt, get up off the floor. Get up, wipe the blood off, treat it, and go at it again. Sometimes you have to do that in life. If it's an injury, be smart enough to know, don't go out there with a broken arm and try to fight and just say, I'll endure it, because then you're creating even more injury and very serious harm. And that's where we have to learn in life. In a corporation, I would suggest you're working, if you don't like it, still do a really good job there. Knock yourself out doing a good job, even for a boss that is really a jerk and you don't like working with that boss. But you're going to learn skills. You're going to learn what to do, and others around you will see what's going on. They'll say, wow, we know how you're getting treated really bad in that job and the boss is a jerk, but look at what you're doing. This guy's really working hard and getting ahead, even in spite of that. And people remember that down the road. Because when they get transferred, they move elsewhere, they're going to say, hey, I remember this guy. Back there, he had a boss, but he still worked. We need to get him and bring him in.
One of the things I remember about judo when I was, I always looked forward to doing it, but then when I'd be in a contest and I'd be out there, I am deliberately putting myself into battle.
Yes.
Which is a really different mindset, because battle is a very uncomfortable place to face an adversary one-on-one, but yet that's business. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in business, and I think I'm talking more now about employees, the employee mentality is to avoid battle, to avoid conflict, try to stay within the confines of your cubicle if you're unfortunate enough to live in a cubicle.
Yeah, that's right. Go along to get along.
Yeah, but when you go out of that cubicle, what usually happens is you start to run into obstacles. So I'm sure Terry Brock ran into some obstacles around 1982 or later. In other words, part of entrepreneurship is obstacles and failing. Dealing with failure. Can you tell us about a situation in your life where you were on the entrepreneurial path and something didn't work out? Tell us about that experience and how you either overcame it or accepted it.
Oh, yeah. I've gone through many of them, many times, and I still go through it today. It's like you never get to a point where you go, okay, now everything's great. Every day you're beginning anew. And so, but I do remember one time it was important to me. I got out, I told you how I went to undergrad school, radio, television, newspaper, learned that. I didn't know anything about business. I'm not good in math at all. And I wanted to go on for an MBA. So I said, I'm going to get an MBA. Yes, indeed, I'm aggressive. I'll do it. Positive thinking, pumping in the air. Yes, I can do it. And we had to take a prereq called accounting. And so I got into that class and did it, and it was kind of hard because they use this thing called T accounts, and they use I thought, why not just use plus and minus? That would be better. And then they explained to me, I go, oh, okay. But there was a whole lot of stuff there, and I did not do well. And this was one of the first courses I had in that first quarter. We were on the quarter system, and I got a D, as in D? Dummy, for that class. And I was going, I don't believe it. And I got a little letter very soon from the school, and they said, Mr. Brock, we have your transcripts here. You got a D. We cannot permit you to stay in the program with a D average. We will give you one more quarter, and you have to correct that and get the average up beyond a D. And I thought, oh no, I was devastated. I was crushed. I remember it was a December, like mid-December when the school was over. I got the letter and I was feeling really bad. And I was walking around in the cold in Atlanta and I was thinking, what am I going to do? And then it hit me, well, just work harder. I'll do it. So I thought, yes, I'm going to do it. So I took the same class the next quarter and I went after it, worked really hard. It was the same course, a different professor. And I was hoping to get an A. I got a B. And that's okay. And then the school sent me another letter. And they said, Terry, we did some calculations and a B and a D averaged to a C, and you can't stay in the program with a C. We're going to give you one more shot. And I thought, oh my goodness. But now I got a B in that class, so I didn't have to retake that class, but I had to take accounting and not financial accounting, but cost accounting, which was supposed to be even tougher. And I thought, oh, this is great. Now I've got to take this other course on cost accounting, and I'm averaging a C. What am I going to do? So what I did is I just went back to my judo training, and I would relentlessly
punched the guy.
going over, well, not punching, but punching the numbers on the paper. And I would write it down literally with a hand and write it down on these long spreadsheets, and I would tear it up and throw it away. Then I'd write it down again, the whole assignment. And I would do that no less than about 50 times, 50. And not exaggerate, I would do it just relentlessly, practicing it over and over.
It's like you were practicing the throw, right?
Yeah, something like you were practicing a throw, like Marote Seonage or something, or Ippon Seonage. You'll remember those from judo, those kind of throws that you did. And I did it. And you know what? I got an A in that class. And I got an A in every finance and accounting class that I had in the program from that point forward. And I learned how to learn. I had to beat my brain into submission. It's like, okay, it was tough. I fell down. I mean, I almost got thrown out of the program, but I stayed with it. And Mace, you know what the most interesting part of it is? Because I went through it relentlessly. And with finance, I went through this thing called a cash flow statement. And I just really learned that well. If you have an excess, you invest it. If you have a deficit here, you borrow at this rate, et cetera, and we're moving it over. All the terms that I just got into it, even though my major was marketing, not finance and not accounting. And I thought, well, I'm never going to use this stuff again, but I'm going to do it now just for the fun of it. I'm going to do the job right.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah, and so I did it. I got an A in finance class. I thought, well, this is good. I'll never use it again. So I got out, and when I was out, I started doing consulting. Started working, consulting, helping people as I was finishing my MBA, and then when I got out, newly minted MBA, I was doing consulting, and I found there was a use for cash flow statements. So I thought, I know how to do that. And then there was this new thing called, at the time, spreadsheets on these new little devices called a computer. I taught myself how to use the spreadsheets, how to use the computers, get in there and did it, and I built a cash flow statement on Lotus 123, which was a popular spreadsheet back then. And I thought, well, that's kind of fun. I just did it. And then I had the Society of CPAs in Atlanta, the Georgia Society of CPAs, come and ask me to teach a class on Lotus 123 because accountants were using this. I thought, well, sure. And I did it. They loved it. And it went well, and I started doing more and more of that. And I eventually worked in 25 state societies of CPAs teaching not only the cash flow, Lotus 123. I wrote for the prestigious Journal of Accountancy with about 400,000 subscribers worldwide. And I offered a $15 little floppy disk with a cash flow template on there that CPAs bought. And I thought, isn't this interesting? Now I've gone from almost getting thrown out of the accounting, the MBA program because of accounting, to now teaching CPAs around the world and various societies of CPAs, showing this. The American Institute of CPAs, AICPA, actually started calling me a CPA. They would put, Terry's speaking at this conference, Terry Brock, CPA, and I'd call them and I'd say, guys, I'm not a CPA. I really am not, because if you call yourself a CPA and you're not, you're violating some law somewhere, I'm sure. And so they did it. And then sure enough, next time I would speak, they'd still do it, and state societies do it. Finally, I said, okay, guys, I give up. I am a CPA, a constant party animal. And that's what it means in my case.
I was about to ask if you could do my taxes this year, but once you define CPA, a constant party animal, I think maybe I'll stay with the accountant I'm with.
Yeah, well, I would recommend your accountant because I don't do it. I have an accountant that I work with. I don't even teach accounting or spreadsheets anymore, but I know it. But I think the point is, going back to what you're talking about in your podcast, Mace, we've got to learn from those mistakes. You are going to have mistakes. You're going to get slugged in the gut every now and then. You're going to fall down and probably skin your knee. It's going to hurt. And so what you do is you have enough resiliency within yourself, being robustness enough that you get back and go after it. I just finished a wonderful book called Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. And he talks about the ability of not just being robust, but to be able to learn from those mistakes. cherish the mistakes and go after them. Small mistakes. You don't want something that's going to kill you, but something that will make you stronger. Kind of goes in line with what our old buddy Friedrich Nietzsche said. That which does not kill me makes me stronger. And so we stay with it, we learn from it. Don't let a mistake go to waste. Be sure and pull from it. Like Rahm Emanuel said, we're not going to let a political crisis go to waste. They want to leverage it for that. Well, we'll let him keep that idea. I'm going to look at having whatever happens on the negative side, somehow build on top of it. What can I learn from that? I'll be better next time because of this.
Now, Terry, you managed to learn accounting because you were studying it and you kind of got hit in the face with it, and you were looking at a D. So you really buckled down and you learned it. But from the standpoint of entrepreneurship, do people really need to learn all of the skills involved in entrepreneurship? Does someone need to learn finance skills, accounting skills? Because some people are saying, well, I don't need to know that. I could just hire it out. What are your thoughts about that?
I think you need a rudimentary knowledge of some of the basics. However, very important that you bring a team around you. And today it's easier to do than ever. You want to be there, but you want to be able to make sure you've got trusted advisors. Have a good accountant. You want to have a good lawyer or legal team that's available standing by in the event you need it. And you want to read, but bring in a team around you of those who are better than you, smarter than you in certain areas. Today, with services like Elance and Odesk and others, you can tap into some geniuses around the world that can, well, say for instance, build a website or help you tweak a program or get a landing page and create products and learn podcasting, things like that. There's people all over that can teach you that. You can pay them very easily through PayPal. You know, you just say, okay, how much are you going to charge for that? And they say, well, maybe the guy's over in London. And you say, how much? He says, oh, I charge 30 quid an hour for that. Okay, 30 quid, which means 30 pounds. You say, okay, I'll give you 30 pounds. We'll do it through PayPal. And it translates real easily. You can get the expertise. Be willing to part with some coins to do that. I love the way that Ben Franklin said it. He said, pour the coins of your purse into your mind, and your mind will overflow your purse with coins. Be willing to make that investment. Learn, read, study, get ahead, and then you bring in others around you that are even better so that you can excel, and you'll be a good entrepreneur that way.
Wow, great advice, Terry. So let's shift gears a little bit. You are the author of a book called Clout Matters.
Yes, indeed.
Which is just an awesome book. I got to tell you that since I read the book, my clout score has soared considerably. Well, it's not anywhere near what yours is, but it's going up considerably. So
congratulations.
Let's talk a little bit. Thank you, and thank you for your help with that. But let's talk a little bit about social media and entrepreneurship. In other words, someone who's in a career right now and they're looking to branch out. What is the value of social media to them? And I might also ask, what is the value of a clout score to this person?
Yeah, well, clout score and social media really work together because clout is a way to measure how effective you are in social media. So you might think, well, I'm sending out these posts, I'm sending out this, and what is working and what isn't? Well, that's where clout is a good tool to measure. Hey, that post you did last week, look at that, it did really, really well. Or that one you thought was really going to do well, didn't do as well. By going to Clout, that's K-L-O-U-T, as you saw in the book, it gives you the ability to do that, clout.com. And there's no charge for this. It's available. If you have a Twitter account, you probably have a clout score unless you purposely said, I don't want them to see it. So it's available. And by using social media today, the entrepreneurs that are listening to this give you the ability to connect with people, customers, people that will pay the bills. That's important. And so you can work with them. You can see what's out there. You get a chance to do your market research by using social media. You're finding out what people like, what they don't like, hot trends. Social media is something that is no longer an option. It's something you definitely want to do and get involved with and do it right. Get the instructions, read some books on it, like our book, Clout Matters, and thank you for mentioning that. It has some good tools, and there's a lot of others out there that can help you as an entrepreneur to get ahead.
How can social media get an employee or an entrepreneur into trouble?
Oh, it can do that as well. It can get you into trouble by saying something that obviously is illegal, or we've seen others that react and say something on social media that goes out quickly to the world and stays there that they wish they hadn't said. Racist or sexist remarks or things that are abhorrent like that, like people like you and me, they say, hey, we don't want to do that. Now, you can have opinions, that's fine. I even think you got to be careful on political, religious views. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it at all. If you're in a group on Facebook that is about a particular political party, obviously you're going to talk about that, or it has a particular political agenda and they want a particular passage of this particular bill. You're going to talk about that, but have a clear distinction between that and what you do in public. We all have political opinions. We all have religious opinions. Even an atheist or someone who is devoutly religious and whatever it is, that's okay, but be careful to not try to push that on other people. I think just being able to share and constantly contribute good. One of the things we talk about in the book is you want to make sure that you give a lot of value. Find out what people want, where they're having pain, where they're hurting, and then answer that by giving them value, how they can improve their lives, how they can improve their business, and that's the best way for you to get ahead.
This is a very broad question. A very broad question. But on I'm Giving Notice, we always talk about how careers, relationships, and health go together. So let's talk about relationships a little bit more. People who become entrepreneurs, oftentimes they don't do it deliberately, but their focus is on their business, and usually the relationships they have with their family, their spouse, significant other, their children, their friends, that suffers. How can people leverage technology to maintain those relationships during their entrepreneurship climb?
Oh, I think that you could do it during the climb and all the time, and we're always climbing. You know, between now and for the next 347 years of life, we'll be climbing, working with that. But I think what you've got to do is have a very clear goal of what you want to do and how you live your life. I'll give you a very personal example. I love what I do. I'm talking with people around the world. Just this morning, I was mentioning to you before we started recording, I had an interview with two wonderful people over in Germany, and had a Skype call with a friend I hadn't talked to in a while in England. Had a quick question. We just did a quick Skype call there. I'm able to do it. I've talked to a friend in Australia just 2 days ago and worked with that. So we do our work, we love it, we work at it really hard, but as an entrepreneur it's also very important to say, at this time I stop and I'm not going to do work. One of the things to me that's sacrosanct is almost every evening my partner and I, Gina Carr, and I get together for a date. We have a date almost every day. And we get together, we watch some videos that we love, educational videos. I know we're both kind of nerdy, which is okay. She's an engineer, and so we do really. She learned how to do that accounting stuff, you know. So, but we do that, and that's like sacrosanct time. We might, because we work together in business, occasionally we'll talk about something in business, but we try to say, let's talk about personal development or where we're going in our life, our relationship, our family, and friends that we know. And if it's about business, we say that's a good topic. Let's talk about that tomorrow. And so what we do is we actually have a business meeting. We schedule a meeting for business where we're going to cover that, and then we have other meetings that's for personal. So we're together, but we make sure that we clearly have silos, and as much as we can have silos, where we say, now we're working on business, now this is personal, and make sure those stay together. I think entrepreneurs have to do that. Like it might be, this is time I'm going to spend with my children. And you spend that time with the children and really be there with them. Not taking a cell phone call, etc., unless it's an emergency. But for the norm, you just say, I'm off work right now. A call comes in, it goes to voicemail. Emails are going to come in, we'll get to them later. But this time is sacrosanct. If I promise my son or my daughter to go here and there, I recommend doing it. Of course, I don't have any children, so I can give lots of good advice on children and how to raise them, because I don't have any.
Me too. Me too. I understand fully. So you really have to compartmentalize that time. You make the effort to set time aside to spend with Gina, and as you said, that is sacrosanct. Now you do that, I would imagine, regardless of where you are in the world. If you're on the road and Gina's at home, do you do the same thing virtually?
Yes, we'll do that where we make a phone call or a Skype call or FaceTime. We're using the technology. And remember, she's an engineer. So we'll put those things together. And so wherever I am, as much as we can, we do it. Can we do it all the time? Sometimes we can. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a place where internet connections were just terrible. I could not get through. And I was just wish I could. But she understood. She didn't hear from me. And she knew, okay, everything's going to be fine. And there was time when I just could not access anything. I remember when I arrived in Mexico and I couldn't get access to the net. I don't speak Spanish. I'm working on it, and I really want to learn Spanish. And I couldn't. And the people that were going to pick me up weren't there. And I waited at the airport for a couple hours, scrambling, trying to get what I'd done. Eventually, I was able to get a connection to the net through some other ways, and then people found out and then came over, and I'm alive. It's okay. But we try to stay in touch as much as possible.
That's great. And a lot of people would be interested to know that there is a language that you've been studying for years. What is that language?
Well, I've been studying Russian for years. I love the Russian language, and I feel like I'm still just getting started with it. I took it in undergrad school for 1 year, and like that. And another language, Japanese, because I just grew up in the martial arts, and our instructor was a third-degree black belt from Tokyo. He did that, and my father had been stationed in Japan right after the war, World War II. And so he came back way before I was born, but he would speak to us in a few phrases in Japanese that he knew. And so I kind of really got to learn and love Japanese. So working on the Japanese, working on the Russian. Right now, I'm just getting started. Just very, I don't even know the word for beginner in Spanish, but I'm getting started, beginner. And I want to learn that language because I see a lot of opportunities for those who can speak Spanish and English.
You just lust for learning, which is so cool. You made a comment a little earlier where you said you're just in the early stages of the 347 years you're going to live. So let's talk about that. You're on the road all over the world. You are truly a globetrotter. How do you maintain your health with that kind of travel schedule?
Well, I like working out. For me, it's enjoyable. When I'm here in Orlando, we have, I think it's a requirement by law in Florida that you have a swimming pool. You know, I think that might be. I haven't checked on that, but we have a pool here at our condo, so I'm swimming a lot of laps back and forth. So I'll swim a half mile to a mile and enjoy that. We got a treadmill downstairs here in the condo, and I love doing that, or I'll get out and run. I also ride a unicycle. So I'll get out and ride my little unicycle around the neighborhood here and have fun. But when I'm on the road, it's not as easy to do that. I'll use the workout facility they have, and I often do what I call a hotel room workout. I found some of the workouts that Navy SEALs will go through when they're in tight quarters and they don't have as much room to get up and move around. And I go through several of those that are really good, can get the blood flowing, strengthen the muscles, develop the aerobic capacity, and do some stretching. So I try to do all of that wherever I am as much as possible.
Where can people find out about those Navy SEAL exercises? You piqued my curiosity.
There's a lot of them out there. Stuart Smith is a former Navy SEAL that has that. If you do, and I'm not getting compensation for this, I just use his stuff and enjoy it. Stuart Smith Navy SEAL. If you do that and try a couple of permutations of it. Also, SEAL Fit. That's SEAL F-I-T from Commander Mark Devine. D-E-V-I-N-E. Mark Devine is a former commander in the United States Navy. He was a SEAL for about 20 years, and he has his undergrad degree from, Colgate, and an MBA from New York University. A really sharp guy, and he's got schools that send people, that help people learn how to be physically, mentally fit, work with that, and I find that I can learn that. I was not a Navy SEAL myself, but I enjoy the discipline and the protocols that they go through, and I find I can learn a lot from that. Applying that to both physical and mental fitness really helps me a lot.
One common thread I found, Terry, when talking to entrepreneurs. Now, not everybody loves exercise. You said you love exercise.
Yeah.
I'm very honest. I don't love exercise. In fact, at times I hate exercise. But the common thread is people who really focus on success in life focus on their health first. I can't help but notice that. And it just makes so much sense. So right after this interview, I'm going to go out and buy a unicycle. I don't know how long it's going to take me to learn how to ride it. That'll be something else, I'm sure. I want to ask you, you mentioned a couple of books. Out of all the books you've read, is there one that you think has had a profound effect on your thinking that's impacted your ability to take the entrepreneurial journey?
Wow, it's hard to say one. I love reading, and there's so many good books. If I could stretch it beyond, it's like I only have one wish, and my wish would be, can I have several more wishes? That would be the wish. But a book I think that really helped put things in light for me a lot was Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. That book as a novel, and it's now a movie, they have three versions, of three parts in the movie, helps us to see what it's like to achieve, to get out and produce and succeed. And you do that by helping others. You do that by providing goods and services to others that they value, and then you exchange value for value. And I think that is the way that we get ahead in life, not by trying to get things for ourselves. We have to think counterintuitively. The way we're designed, you only breathe for yourself. You only sleep for yourself. And unless you're pregnant, you're only eating for yourself. And our brain is such that we're always seeing the world from, how is the world viewing me? What do they think about this? We've got to break out of that to be able to think, how can I help this other person in order to achieve what you want? Because nobody owes you anything. And I remember Harry Brown, late great financial person. He was a political candidate also. He said it was such a relief in life when he realized how freeing it was that nobody owes him anything, even to be kind. Nobody owes you a thing. You've got to do it. And it's freeing because now you're not going, oh, please, please, please do this. Oh, vote for this candidate or that candidate, and then everything will be wonderful. No, it really doesn't matter. The way the human nature works, the way things work on this planet, and always have and always will, you got to get out, take matters into your own hands, and make it happen. Sometimes and often that means you're working with other people, finding out why it's to their advantage to do this thing that you need. I'm not a surgeon, but if I needed surgery, I would have to encourage that surgeon to want to operate on me. The way we do that is pay their bills, pay them, and then we get it.
Yeah, surgeons generally do a better job at the operation if they think they're going to get paid.
They usually do, and I wish that people would understand that when they say, we're going to cut back what surgeons get and what physicians get paid in order to be fair. See, and that's a problem. When people start talking about fair, it sounds nice in a little nursery rhyme way, a fair and fair share and all that, but it's so squishy. It's not an agreement. If I say, look, I will deliver you X number of widgets by this time, they will meet these specifications, it'll cost X dollars, we've got an agreement there. We shake hands, we write it up, or whatever we say it. Then we've got something that can really measurably help each other. To say we want to just be fair runs into a real squishy world that is very dangerous.
Yeah, how many people want to go to work for an employer? How much are you going to pay me? Don't worry about it. I promise to be fair.
Yeah.
Well, most people won't sign that contract.
Exactly, and yet that's what they're saying now when you hear politicians say, well, the rich should pay their fair share. Wait a minute. Who's rich? How do we quantify that? And what is fair share? And they should be expected to pay a little bit more. And by the way, watch out whenever anyone is using force and coercion. I find there's two ways to get things done in life. One is by persuasion, another one is by coercion. Persuasion is no harm. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to ask you to do it, try to show you why it's there, advertise, etc. Coercion is when people come in and they use guns in government, inevitably. And ultimately, they will use guns. If you do not support this program, they will send you some notices. They'll send you more notices. And then eventually, they send people out with a nice little costume on with a badge and a gun, and they can legally throw you into a rape cage and make your life really miserable. And so you think, I'd rather go with the persuasion side than the coercion side. Much better to use persuasion. And that's how you can see that we are able to get ahead.
I'm going to go with the persuasion side as well. Terry Brock, we have covered career, we've talked about relationships, we've talked about health. What parting words would you like to leave the listeners? Something that they could take action on today that would impact all three of those areas in their life.
I would say that as you look at your life and where you are right now, you've seen that there's a lot of opportunities and there's also challenges. Embrace the challenges. Know that they're going to be there. Hey, it's just the way things work on this planet.
Yeah.
So embrace those and learn from them. Bring other people around you that are smarter than you, that can help you and reinforce what you're doing. And always do what is right by giving value to other people, and they will determine what the value is. Do it in an agreeable way with persuasion, not with force. Never initiate force or coercion. And I think that if you live your life by helping others, contributing, doing that, you will have a very good life, and I wish you much success.
Terry Brock, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Terry, thank you so much for being on the I'm Giving Notice podcast. Again, Terry Brock's book, Clout Matters. I'm going to have a show notes page at www.imgivingnotice.com where you could find out more information about Terry, and there will be links to his books, to his website. But just before we go, how can people find out more about you?
Well, they go to the website. Website's a great place. That's where we've got our Twitter information, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that, phone numbers, etc. If you go to terrybrock.com, and that's spelled Terry, and Brock is spelled the right way, Brock. So terrybrock.com, and you'll get all the information there.
Terry, it has been an absolute delight for me to spend some time with you today on both video and audio. And I'm going to cherish this moment as I do all of my time with you. Thank you so much for being on the I'm Giving Notice podcast. And,
thank you, Mace. It's an honor to be with you today.
And please give my best regards to your beautiful partner, Gina Carr. And I look forward to interviewing her as well here shortly as well.
Excellent. And please tell CJ we said hello, and looking forward to seeing you two again.
All right, same here. And to all the listeners at the I'm Giving Notice podcast, you got your money's worth today. Great information from Terry Brock. Visit the show notes page again, www.imgivingnotice.com, and I will talk to you again soon. Until then, bye for now.